You know, there's another question that I want to ask you very much, and that is, in this enormous range of roles that you sing, what attracts you at a given time to a certain role? I mean, I can imagine you as Isolde. I've never had the good fortune to hear you as Isolde, but you're at what different times you've sung different types of roles. Does this correspond to some inner?
I'm going to tell you one thing. There's a certain time in your career that you have to do certain roles to have a contract. I had studied the Bel Canto roles, which even include Gioconda, which is just on the border of decent singing. Forgive me, I don't consider Puccini in the Bel Canto line. I think Ponchielli just about touches it.
You do so marvelously.
Yes, I do. It's an experience, but it is not good for the voice. Anybody could get away with it.
Tell me, you said the other day that you didn't care for the role of Tosca.
No.
I found that hard to believe after
Yes.
your last, when I last heard you at the Metropolitan as Tosca.
Well, if I don't care for a role, I try to do it even better because I must do my job. Well, it is not that beautiful, frankly, because the first act is just a nervous girl that is always complaining, and the second act automatically goes on its own.
Yes.
With the Vici d'arte, which I think should be cut out eventually because it stops completely the action of the second act. In fact, I was pleased to hear that Puccini didn't want it even.
That Puccini didn't want it
in his books it says that he had to put it because they needed an aria, but he said, well, it stops the movement. And in fact, I was right, you see my instinct. I read some of Puccini's letters lately, and it was in his letter. So
That's
you see?
fascinating.
Yes, it is fascinating. In fact, you can feel it. It just stops the movement. It has nothing to do with the second act.
Did you sing Isolde because of a contract?
Yes. When I went to Italy, I sang Gioconda. I was under contract from America. And after Gioconda, I had sprained my ankle, and I couldn't move well on stage. But mainly, they did not really like me. I mean, I was a success, but I had no more contracts. In the meantime, Serafin had left the Scala, and he needed an Isolde. He needed a Norma, an Aida, a dramatic soprano, in other words.
Yes.
So he remembered me from Arena di Verona, and he called me to perform Isolde very quickly, I mean in December, and I knew this about November.
Had you studied the role beforehand?
No. In fact, I thanked my lucky stars that I had studied in the Conservatoire because I had just looked at the first act by curiosity, and he, at the last minute, asked for an audition with me. And I wouldn't dare say I didn't know the opera. I would have lost the audition because, you know, they say that to learn Wagner is so difficult, and I know I'm a very quick learner, also with the experience that I had with music and all that. So I just bluffed. I said, yes, of course I know Isolde. And I sight-read the second act. I don't know how. Oh. God must have helped me, if I think of it even now after all these years. And he turned around and says, excellent. Thank heavens he didn't ask for the third act because I would have died. I just couldn't stand the tension anymore.
Tell me, did you sing it in Italian first?
In Italian, yes, because they used to sing, in those years, they used to sing Wagner in Italian in Europe.
Yes, I remember very well.
And he told me, he says, well, excellent work. I must say you know the role well. And then I confessed, look, maestro, I said, I must say I bluffed. I didn't. I sight-read the second act. Well, he was surprised and he appreciated me even more then.
Being so frank.
Then I had to study. So I sang Isolde. Then I sang Turandot also. I was engaged for that contract. Then as soon as I could have gotten out of these roles, well, I got out. In fact, I dedicated myself to the Bel Canto roles that do good for the voice.
Yes.
And I dropped all these other roles.
I see. So the Wagnerian roles were really more conforming to what was demanded of you in the theater.
I must say one thing, though. Now, if I have to judge between Isolde and Norma, well, I'm afraid that Isolde is nothing in comparison to Norma.
You know, that's exactly what Lili Lehmann
Lili Lehmann,
said.
exactly.
And, she said, rather three Götterdämmerung Brünnhildes than
yes.
one Norma as far as
yes.
the strain of it goes.
Definitely.
You said that you have had to struggle, and yet it seems very hard to believe that somebody with your gifts didn't walk right into the roles and into the big opera houses.
Oh, no. It wasn't at all easy. I had struggles in Italy. I think they found a new element in me. What they considered Bel Canto was just a beautiful voice singing, whereas with mine they just had to work their minds a little more. They had emotions that they didn't feel before. I was going against the so-called tradition, which was then not so good. because the tradition of high, long-held notes and overdone phrases, all this business, which I had to fight for enormously.
You had to fight to put the interpretation
to clean
into the
down,
voice.
put music back to its place, and not have these enormous long notes with these cadenzas that never finish, and real old bad tradition.
Is it true that you came to this country and
Yes,
sang for people here? And
by the way, I had said yes. You do have to accept sometimes contracts while you're making career. In other words, I had told you that I did accept Tristan and Isolde then in Turandot, but those were my roles, with knowing how to sing and not letting them harm your voice that much. I was offered in America in 1946 when I came here. Mr. Johnson was then director
of the
Metropolitan. And I auditioned for them. I sang, I remember, I think it was Trovatore d'Amor Sulali, the first aria, and then Casta Diva. They asked me what I would sing, and I said I would sing Trovatore first and Casta Diva after. And I remember Johnson said, well, that's a very funny way of warming up. You should sing Casta Diva first and then the Trovatore, Edward Johnson. And I said, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, but I'm afraid that's the way I warm up. And which is so true, it's odd. Mine is a strange voice. I usually warm up with heavy operas, and then my voice becomes...
I can't imagine warming up on one of the most difficult arias that was ever written.
Well, it is odd. I confess. No, I warmed up on Trovatore, which is odd.
Exactly.
One of the funny things in my voice. In any case, then he offered me, I went the next day, and he offered me Fidelio in English to be sung, I think, in Philadelphia, and I said, no, thank you. And he says, why? I know you sing Fidelio. I said, yes, but I don't sing it in English. Well, he says, you sung it in Greek. Well, I said, I had to because I was in Greece. But I will not sing Fidelio in English. It's against my principles. Well, I said, I shall offer you Butterfly. And I'm afraid I had to say no again to Butterfly because it was not an ideal debut. Because I think that the debut is most important. You must debut in the best opera, or possibly your best opera.
No question.
No question. So I unfortunately had to say no. And then when I did say no, all my friends and, people around you said, well, she's crazy. Hi-hat, who does she think she is? She'll never get another chance like that, turning down the Metropolitan and blah, blah. Well, I really knew I had to do this, and if I was asked again, I'd do it again. But I promise you it was not easy with my own conscience after. And I was sitting around waiting for a chance. Then we were supposed to debut in Chicago. If you remember, they were supposed to open the season then, and it bankrupt. And I didn't debut there. But then there was Nicola Rossilimeni, who was supposed to sing Gioconda at the Arena, and he proposed me to Zenatello, who was then the director of Arena. And I auditioned for him, and he immediately gave me the contract.
And that was the beginning.
That was the beginning.